welcome back. Today we are going to be doing a deep dive video on Ashes of Creation nodes. So what we know so far about nodes, they are points of interest in the world of Ashes of Creation. They will be the cities and the foundation of the missions and a lot of the content that is going to be present in the game. So these will be upgraded via guilds or via the community in the servers. And depending on which area you have a node in, you'll get different benefits. Different things will happen if you have a node in different locations around the world. So let's go ahead and get into part one, and then we'll watch part two, and then we'll chat about it for a little bit.
Hey everyone, my name is Steven Sharif, and I'm the creative director here at Intrepid Studios. Many of you have seen our MMORPG in development, Ashes of Creation. Well, I'd like to take you through part one in a series of videos that will explain probably the most important system in the game, our node system.
Most important system.
This system is what enables players to develop the world around them, affecting everything from the story of the world to the content that players experience.
So I've seen different servers, depending on their node leveling and node status, they will unlock different missions, different quests, different things depending. So each server will look completely different and have different content, which is really interesting.
And within each zone is a node as shown. A node represents a specific location where a camp can form and gradually be developed into a village, then a town, to a city, and eventually a metropolis. Every activity a player participates in will fall within a specific node's ZOI, and these activities will contribute to that specific node's development. This is important because only so many nodes can be developed, and certain content is locked behind which nodes develop. This can create conflict between different communities that have a vested interest in the development of certain nodes. When you first enter the world, you will arrive through one of the great divine gateways. These portals are remnants of the civilizations that once inhabited this world. Your ancestors fled their home in haste, and now an eternity has passed, and these divine gateways have opened once again, leading you back to the world of your origin. As our players begin to explore their surroundings, they will find a world teeming with valuable resources, complex quests, and monstrous foes. In this case, one of our players has found some ore to mine, which allows her to progress her artisan class by collecting materials from the world. This other player has begun to harvest wood he needs for building supplies to construct a home on the hillside. As they collect these materials, they are both gaining character experience, while at the same time contributing experience to the node that resides within this specific zone.
So everyone in that area will
As
help
players
level
participate
up each
in more
node.
activities, this node will collect enough experience to advance to the next stage of development. All the activity in this area has brought the base node to stage 1 in its development. We call this the NPC Stage. Until now, this node was unknown, but the arrival of these NPCs unlocks access to new activities for the players, and as the node continues to progress through each level, it will attract more NPCs, which will provide evolving content that reflects the specific node's location. Let's fast forward to a level 4 node, the Town Stage.
Oh.
Notice that a new monster is threatening our newly formed town. If this node had not been developed, it may have never revealed itself. The world itself is reacting to the advancement of specific nodes. This town was advanced near forests and mountains, drawing the attention of the sinister creatures that dwell within. If the town had been formed along the coast, perhaps this fisherman would have caught something more dangerous than the fish you see here. The content that exists in Ashes connects in some way to the location and advancement of the node system. It reaches level 5, becoming a city, and some new events are happening in the world. A bridge has been built to connect this area to a neighboring node. This will add a potential trade route that our caravan system will take advantage of, connecting two neighboring nodes and allowing for economic prosperity for players to capitalize on. However, all of this activity has triggered something deep within the mountain. All of this civilization has awoken an ancient dragon. The higher stage a node advances, the more significant events it draws toward it. Epic world bosses will reflect the development of specific nodes and their location. Our world is designed to react to the players by providing new and exciting chapters to
So
an
different nodes,
ever-evolving
different
story.
bosses
A
of
story
what it
that
sounds
reflects the
like. The
actions of
bridge,
each
for
server.
instance,
A story that can change
one
and
that
adapt
isn't
to provide the
connected via
players an
water wouldn't
immersive
have a
tale
bridge.
woven
It
by the
seems
actions of the
each
community.
location
This
and
dragon
server are
is the
going to look
server's dragon,
very
part of the
unique, which
server's
is
tale,
really cool.
and one which might not be seen on any other server. The players now must react to this evolving threat. Thankfully, these players are up to the task, and taking down this dragon has again contributed to the node, furthering its development. From the first stage of a few wandering merchants to the sixth stage of a sprawling metropolis, nodes redefine the world around them, influencing points of interest in the world, quest lines, story arcs, drop tables and resource pools, even the spawn tables for bosses and NPCs across the world. This cycle of nodes leveling, triggering events, and leveling again is the fundamental cycle of growth throughout Ashes of Creation. The world you see reflected on your server will depend entirely on where players decide to plant their roots, and the events and structures that fill the world will be a direct result of where and when nodes evolve. Even we aren't sure where players will take things, which makes this project exceptionally exciting for all of us. We focused here on the growth of nodes in order to show how the base functionality works, but in upcoming videos we'll delve into the sieging and possible destruction of nodes, how player-run governments of nodes work, and how regions grow. I hope you've enjoyed part 1. And if you'd like to get involved in our development, you can register on our website at ashesofcreation.com or follow us on YouTube and join our community Discord. Thanks for
Alright, so before we start the second part, it sounds like every server is going to be extremely unique. And depending on what the guilds on each server want to do, I don't know if it's probably going to be pretty guild focused because they don't have factions as we talked about in the last video, which I think is cool. So it sounds like guilds are really going to control which nodes are built, and there's going to be a lot of guild battles based around these nodes. And from what I've heard, the nodes cannot go past a certain tier if a node next to it is already at a metropolis, for instance. Then a node directly next to it cannot get to metropolis, which is going to cause a lot of node battles, guild battles, which I think is really interesting. So let's go ahead and hop into video number 2 for nodes.
Hey everyone, this is Stephen Sharif, Creative Director here at Intrepid Studios. Welcome to part 2 of our Node series. If you haven't already, I'd recommend you take a look at part 1 in our 4-part video series on nodes. It's a great introduction to the system's overall purpose and design. The Metropolis, the pinnacle of civilization. A symbol of the power and ingenuity of the people, it is wilderness conquered, mastered, and remade in your own image. The Metropolis is effectively the culmination of the node system. It's the biggest thing that players can bring into being and the final level of civilization's development on this forgotten world. The Metropolis requires a large amount of resources to develop and maintain, and because of how nodes relate to one another, there can be no more than 5 in existence at a time. So you might naturally ask, what does it do? To answer that question, we need to know what civilization offers in general. Every stage of a node's development comes with additional services and benefits, and these services really start to pick up at stage 3, the village stage. One of the foremost services that a node offers is housing, and through that, citizenship. And citizenship is a big deal. There are 3 primary means of acquiring housing. The first is our in-node housing. It's here that players can begin buying static housing. These buildings belong to the node, and as a node levels up, the housing levels up with it. A player will be able to purchase a small one-room house at the village stage. When the node advances up to a town, so does that house. The owner enjoys the benefits of a suddenly larger home. His property size increases, his house is located more towards the center of town, and the square footage of his home has gone up considerably. There's new property available at the town stage, but this new property is more akin to what was available at the previous stage, small and modest. Now when the node advances up further, this time to a metropolis, this all happens again. The player's house, already sizable, grows into a mansion. The number of mansions in a metropolis will be the same number of small homes that were available in this metropolis's village stage. Only those houses that
I wonder if
existed
there'll,
at the
there'll
village
be an
level
instance
will
because
ever
I
become
doubt there
these
will be
main
that
street
much room in the
mansions.
Metropolis.
So effectively,
for
at each stage the node
10,
advances,
100
you will see the
mansions.
existing homes advance as well. This makes getting in early for a node pretty important, and introduces a real estate aspect to owning in-node property. I know what you're thinking, and the answer is yes, you can sell these properties. These in-node housing options are at a premium, and we expect these to be hotly contested. But if you want to be a citizen, and there are no more in-node housing spots available, you do have some options. For instance, at the town stage and above, your node's politicians will have the option to open up instanced apartments. These are internal-only spaces which can be decorated to your desire. Different price points will offer different sized apartments, and apartment rentals will also offer citizenship. They won't have external spaces to build out, and they aren't quite as prestigious as in-node housing, but they'll still offer some housing functionality to those who really want to be a citizen of a specific node. The final type of housing available are our freeholds. These plots of property can be built anywhere within a node's zone of influence, and only after a node reaches stage 3. These are sizable plots of land that all sorts of structures can be built on. Inns and taverns, forges, smelters, lumber yards, mills, stables.
So quick note about these, I was wondering, are these going to be freely available to be attacked and taken over, or are these going to be limited to only players and who is in their party or in their guild or something like that? I was a little confused about
Are
that.
all things that you might find on a freehold.
Most likely get
These
to that
plots of land are where a
later in the
player
build
can
development
really
at some
get
point.
creative with their buildings. Because they're built within a node's zone of influence, they grant citizenship as well. The larger the node, the bigger the zone of influence is, which means more freeholds can be built. As you may know, nodes have 4 different types: scientific, economic, militaristic, and divine.
Interesting.
These types unlock different buildings at each level of a node's progression, contributing progressively larger benefits at each stage of a node's development. At the Metropolis stage, these benefits are so wide-reaching that a scientific metropolis will feel very different from an economic metropolis, and a divine metropolis very different from a militaristic one. Not only will these
So
cities
there are
feel
only
different,
5.
but the
There
regions these
could
giant
potentially
cities
not
belong
even
to
be
will
one
feel
type
different as well.
of node on a
Different
server.
types of metropolises will have specific ultimate bonuses. For example, a scientific metropolis will offer fast travel to nodes within its zone of influence. This is big because there is very little fast travel in the game. A world with even just one scientific metropolis will feel and act much differently than a world without it. Similarly, an economic metropolis brings world-changing functionality to the table. Normally markets are local, and players can buy from and sell to only players who are in the same node. Economic metropolises break that convention, and they have the capability to build a market that integrates with all the nodes in their zone of influence, providing for a far larger market than any other metropolis could hope for.
Very interesting.
Divine and militaristic nodes also break world convention in one way or another. In other words, everything changes once a node reaches the metropolis stage. Along with those benefits, node type also determines the type of government that a node has. The most traditional government comes from the scientific node, which allows the citizens to come together and choose their leaders. The divine type allocates its leaders through service-oriented quests, quests that directly help others and their node, quests that prove their faith and dedication to the node. Economic type governments are run by an elite oligarchy. These positions can be bought and sold, so if you want to rule an economic type node, make sure your coin purse is heavier than your competition. Finally, the militaristic type is ruled by combat. Whoever are the last ones standing have proven their worth to lead by iron fist and sharpened blade. These warriors can only be removed from office by citizens who are better and more bloodthirsty than they. Once a leader is chosen, they have a lot to do. Outside the basic services that a node provides, leaders must choose what other service buildings to construct, which means they should have a clear plan for what they want to accomplish during their tenure. Some buildings might simply provide a zone-wide bonus to their citizens. Others might provide expanded markets. Some may increase a node's ability to defend against a siege. There is only so much space for these kinds of buildings, so the leadership will need to choose well in order to keep their citizens happy. Along that same line, leaders will need to tax their populations to provide these services, to construct these buildings, and to keep node atrophy at bay. Too much and their populations will abandon them. Too little and the node will decay and delevel. Savvy leaders can supplement their node's income with trade routes and trade agreements with other nodes. Be sure to provide some armed escorts for those caravans. Absentee leaders need not apply, as every leader can be replaced in the next election cycle. Citizens and only citizens reap the reward of the Metropolis, gaining the benefits that their taxes pay for. Additionally, citizens can gain titles according to their position within society. Most of these are reserved for those who have been with the Metropolis longest, but latecomers can earn their way to the top with enough effort and guile. Only citizens can participate in government and the different election processes. If their leaders have built marketplaces, citizens can set up shop there by purchasing time from the city and paying taxes on the goods they've sold. In Ashes of Creation, what is built can be destroyed, and metropolises are no different, but we feel that the effort to destroy something must be equitable with the effort to build something. Because of this, the higher level a node is, the more difficult and challenging the task of initiating a siege becomes.
Of course.
That means that sieging a metropolis will be an act of epic and world-shattering proportions. The success or failure of that siege will be written into the history books and likely impact every person on that server. Should it succeed, the metropolis will be deleveled or even destroyed, erasing the global benefits that it once provided, while at the same time opening up the opportunity for another node to take its place. Maybe one of a different type, maybe one led by a tyrant, or maybe none at all. Should that siege fail, that means that the hopes and dreams of the attackers, who should be legion in number, have been thwarted, and the status quo will endure. As I said in the beginning, metropolises are the pinnacle of civilization. They represent this through their size, through their systems, and through their citizens. Their weight is felt across the world, and once one is established, everything will change. For the better or for the worse? Well, that's up to you. I hope you have enjoyed this overview of the Metropolis. We have so much to share with you about Ashes during our development. Everyone here at Intrepid Studios is so appreciative of the support that you all have shown us, and it means so much to have you with us along the way. Please subscribe to our social media outlets and make sure to register on our website for updates. Our Kickstarter begins May 1st. We look forward to building Ashes of Creation into the MMORPG that we can all be proud of.
So that just gave me goosebumps. That looks really amazing. So 4 different node type or metropolis types that will affect the entire server basically, and they're governed by what I can only assume is the controlling guild there because they'll have the majority power. And those sieges look like they're going to be pretty ridiculous. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. Feel free to comment and we can chat about upcoming videos that they have and some more development information. So yeah, if you like this video and want to see more Ashes content before its release, then feel free to subscribe. And thank you guys. I will be talking to you soon on our next video for Ashes of Creation.